Hey guys, Moran here, and welcome to a new episode of the podcast. Today I'm joined by Emily Hayden from Houston, Texas. Emily's an entrepreneur, IFBB Bikini Pro. She has her own podcast, Evolve with Emily. She started as a fitness coach, but she now also does mindset mentorship to help others succeed in life, and she calls it the pursuit of excellence. I like that. Now, Emily's also a great friend of mine, and we've shared a lot of fun times and also deep conversations over the years. So welcome to the podcast, Emily. Good to have you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to get to have a conversation with you today because we've had some really awesome deep talks. You're definitely one of those that you're not just the surface level, you like to go in deep, and I do too. So let's do it. Let's get on with it.
Awesome, definitely. So maybe we go back to like when we met for the first time. Maybe you want to start there.
When was the very first time that we met?
Amsterdam.
I'm trying to remember.
Amsterdam.
That was the very first time. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, stop.
Yeah.
Okay, that's crazy because I feel like by the time that we met, I feel like I kind of already knew you because I'd started following you before we met. And then we met in Amsterdam, and that was still to this date one of the most epic travel experiences that I've had.
Oh,
You
really?
definitely, oh yeah, absolutely. Just the experiences that I had with you guys and with the whole Alpha Elite crew. I don't think that's something that can ever be repeated. It's one of those memorable moments for me that for me was just like, it was one of those stories I'll be telling my grandkids one day.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, it was so special for me as well because it was like my first trip with Alpha Elite somewhere because I wanted to be sponsored by Alpha Elite for a long time, and I also looked up to all you guys, was following all you guys. It was so awesome. Like I was pretty young back then. It was yeah.
It's funny. You actually remind me a lot of one of my brothers, my younger brother. So whenever we met, I like instantly, I don't know, I just thought you were awesome. Like we were like friends instantly.
And so what is like the thing in your life right now that you're most excited about?
What I'm most excited about is actually the next retreat that I'm hosting. So I have Evolve with Emily, the podcast. I have the Evolve program, which is my mentorship and coaching program that I have people go through. And then the next level of that is the in-person tangible experience of Evolve with Emily, where I host a group of people and they come and we do personal development. We train really hard. We have connection. We do a bunch of different things, but essentially what they're doing is they're evolving in person. So I'm really, really stoked because to this date, that last retreat that I did was one of the most like amazing experiences that I've had in my life. You know, those times when you realize you're like, oh, I was made to do this. It was one of those moments. Yeah.
How many people come on a retreat? Is it like a small group?
Yeah, I like to keep them small and intimate. So we'll probably have anywhere from like 30 to 40 people.
Oh, that's still like pretty like big, right?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like
yeah. For me, well, that's good. You set the bar high. You set the bar high.
Yeah,
that's nice, awesome. So, what does living a life of excellence mean to you?
That's a great question. So I feel that if we were gifted the opportunity of life, that it is our duty, responsibility, and opportunity to get to live the best possible life that there is, right? So if I just let this day go by and I'm not being the best that I can be, I feel like I'm taking life itself for granted. So living a life of excellence, I feel everybody is actually called to. I feel we are to be our best selves every single day. And I think that in that is where we actually find fulfillment. Because when you're being the best version of yourself, you're being the best employee, the best boss, the best brother, sister, significant other. And when you're doing that, everything around you improves. So I really believe that an excellent life is actually the most fulfilled life. It's just oftentimes the harder option because practicing excellence is not easy. It's never the easy option. It's always the hard thing. You know, when you have two options in front of you, like press snooze or get up out of bed, it's the getting up out of bed. And it sounds really simple just to say, but when you're tired and when you're sore and when you have bruises all over, like I do today from all the, I've been doing like martial arts and such. Nothing in me wanted to get up and go train this morning. When my alarm went off at 5 a.m., I was just like, man. And I just remind myself, I'm like, are you going to choose excellence? Or are you going to let the highest version of you die? Right? Because I feel like you have two options in life, evolve or die. You're either constantly growing and evolving and being the best you that you can be, or you're allowing the highest version of you to die inside as a very lesser version of you. It just simply exists.
I like that. The name of this podcast is in Dutch, but it's maximum potential.
So that's awesome.
Sort of the same message. But like, what do you think? Because I often think like double about this. I agree with everything you're saying. That's the lifestyle that I live as well, and that I preach. But then on the other hand, like some people seem to be sort of like happy with like just having an average life. What do you think about that?
Mm. I do think that there are different callings and purposes for different people. And I think maybe sometimes we might perceive something as an average life, but what might be average to very high performers might actually not be average to that person. So I think there's a few ways to look at it. I think one, are we projecting our own individual calling, which I do feel that some people are called to very high levels. For example, I think about like billionaire friends of mine, and I'm like, I'm definitely not called to that. Like I'm not called to that kind of lifestyle, or like for me, I personally wouldn't put in the work that it requires to be a billionaire. And I know that, might sound contradictory to me saying be your best self, but I just don't feel that it's my calling to create this
Right, right.
massive, crazy empire, right? Like that doesn't feel right for me. So when I think about it that way, I think about, okay, there must be other people that they have the same kind of experience with what I do, right? I know that I was called to be a high performer, a high level athlete, a high level performer in everything that I do. And here's the other thing too. I do think that there are some people that are telling themselves that they're happy, but the truth is they are not happy and not fulfilled. At the end of the day, when they're sitting there and they have space to finally think and space to really feel into what they're feeling, they feel unfulfilled, they feel unhappy, and there's this little thing inside of them that's telling them that there's more. So I really
Oh, yeah.
encourage people to be honest with themselves. Be honest. Like, are you living a life that you truly are happy and satisfied and fulfilled by? And if so, live that life, no matter what it looks like, no matter if you are the mailman and you really express your core values through being a mailman and you love what you do, right? Or if you're a CEO of a company, right? But if you're a CEO of a company and you're unhappy and unsatisfied and unfulfilled, go and chase something else. Like, we literally only get one life. So stop wasting it, staying in what's comfortable, no matter what that is, no matter what kind of changes that, you have to make in order to chase that highest potential. It's worth it, because when you start to align yourself with what you were actually created to do, life becomes magical. Like, there are so many beautiful moments of life that I just hope people get to experience, but they'll only experience it if they go after everything they were actually called to, which requires work.
That's amazing. I actually love that message, and I love that response also. And
Mm-hmm.
it also gives a little bit of a different insight on like what does the word average actually mean, right? Or
Yeah.
like it's sort of the same. Like, what does the word success mean to you? It's like different for everybody. But
Yeah.
I do think that it's important to explore what something means to you. And
Mm-hmm.
as you say, if you want to grow, you have to like step out of the comfort zone. And no one enjoys hitting that fucking snooze or hitting no snooze button in the morning and getting up. No one
Yeah.
enjoys that. I like
Right.
I've been doing cold showers now for like a year straight. I don't like I never enjoy it, right? Like there's
Yeah.
not a day and I'm like, oh, I'm happy to like do this, right?
Wait,
So,
so you're still doing the cold showers?
oh yeah, I do, yeah, yeah.
And so
So
does it get better?
the funny thing is, so like last week I was on a vacation and I actually like took a break from the cold showers. And it was kind of nice because it was vacation. I'm like, why should I like punish myself now in the morning? Like there's like, and it wakes me up quite nicely. But in the vacation, I
Yeah.
was like, wow, like a hot shower is really nice. I almost forgot how nice it was. But now
Yeah.
I had to get back to the cold ones, but I was like action mode directly because, it does work. Yeah.
Yeah. I've
I
been
saw,
doing cold plunges
I saw that.
actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got a at-home cold plunge, and it has like lights and jets and it's filtered. It's pretty nice. But by day like 4, I'm looking at it and I don't want to get in this thing. And I'm like, why did I get this? Like, why did I decide that this is a great idea? Because now every single day I'm faced with this decision of, are you actually going to do what you said you were going to do, right? Are you actually going to put yourself in this really uncomfortable situation that really sucks, that's really unenjoyable, or are you not? Like last night, so normally I do it midday and then I like meditate in the sun, and I love warming up in the sunshine and doing a little stretching, and it's like a little meditative practice for me. But yesterday was absolutely insane, and it was 9 p.m. and I hadn't done it yet, and that's way late. Like normally I do it so much earlier. And everything in my head was like, you can skip this. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, what is your ego going to be hurt because you just didn't do one day? But at the end of the
Right.
day, I had to look at that self-talk and ask myself, what is this self-talk right now? And to me, this self-talk was trying to get me to not stay committed to what I said I was going to do. Right. So I had to look at it that way. And when I realized what was happening, I was like, I cannot allow, even for a second, me to justify, give excuses, or make reasons why I'm not going to do this. Right. So I just shut up. I literally tell myself, I'm like, shut up. And I just get into action. I go, I put my swimsuit on, I go into the garage, I get ready. And then what's great is I just set my timer. And once I set my timer, I just have to get in, and I did it, and it wasn't enjoyable. I hated the whole thing. Normally I like settle into it and my body will calm down and it becomes like I can actually stay in longer. But this time, I think because there was so much mental resistance and where my head was at mentally, I was shaking the whole time. I hated the whole thing. It honestly wasn't great. Normally I'm a little bit better, but I was really happy that I decided to stick through with my commitment, because I really do believe that it's building such mental fortitude and strength, just by this simple action of putting yourself in this really uncomfortable situation. So whether it's a cold shower or a cold plunge, I think that's a really easy way to tangibly practice putting yourself in extreme circumstances and then following through with it.
Exactly. And how you do one thing is how you do everything. And that's
Yes.
once you slip up on one day, you're like, nah, today I'm going to skip, why not? Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, it does matter. Yeah, it really
Yeah.
does. Yeah, it really does. Once you give yourself like that off guard for one day, you're going to do it again.
Yes. And that's the
Be
thing,
worth
you
it.
start building patterns and habits, right?
Yeah.
So last night I built a little bit of a new pattern where it's like, okay, when everything in me is telling me not to do this thing that I said I would be committed to, I actually created an action that says I do it anyways. So even when it's not ideal circumstances, even when I have every justifiable excuse, I do it anyways. So now next time when I get presented with that, I have new strength. I have a muscle memory, so to speak, of I can push through this, I can do it, and I'll actually be proud of myself afterwards. And so I'll remember that. And then next time I'll be able to say, you know what, I want to be proud of myself. So I don't want to do it. This sucks, but I'm going to do it anyways.
Yeah. And it never feels good beforehand, but it feels freaking amazing afterwards. And it's the
Yes,
same thing with
yes.
training. You've been training for so long. You've
Yeah.
won shows. You've done many competitions as well. I'm
Mhm.
wondering, like, where did your fitness journey start?
So I've always been an athlete. I did volleyball, track and field, basketball in high school. And then after high school, I really missed high school sports. I'm crazy. Like, I loved to practice. I love getting my butt kicked by my coaches. I love the coaching relationship. But I started weightlifting seriously. And that was in 2008, actually. Yeah. Wow. It's been a while. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
So I started really seriously weightlifting in 2008, and I would go in there and I would just train like an animal. Like, I loved training so much. And then somebody was like, hey, why don't you consider doing a bodybuilding show? And I was like, those bikinis are so small. Like, there's no way. Like, that's what I thought when I first looked at it. But you know what? I got to a point where I was helping other people achieve all of their fitness goals. And I didn't really have a fitness goal for myself. And I wanted to set a new goal for myself. So I was doing like the most amount of pull-ups I could do, the highest box jump, like all these random challenges, and I achieved them all. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do next? So then I decided to do my first show and just see how it goes. And I fell in love with it. Like, the very first show that I did, my tan was horrible, my makeup was horrible, my posing was cringe when I look back on it, but I
Oh,
had
yeah.
an amazing time, and I loved it, and I realized that it was something that I could probably be pretty successful in. And from that point on, I immediately did 14 shows. 7 of those were national shows. On the 7th national show is when I got my pro card. Before getting my pro card, I came runner up to it 2 times in a row. So I kept kind of climbing the ranks in the national shows, and then I kept getting that runner up position. But when I got the runner up position, people expected me to be upset that I didn't get my pro card. And I actually felt the exact opposite. I was like, they just showed me that I already am a pro and I'm about to get it. Like, I know that I've got this, so it kind of just lit that fire even more. And I chased after it even harder. And getting my pro card was definitely a huge accomplishment for me, because I had just dedicated so much time and so much effort. and to really see it pay off showed me that when you stay consistent and you have this like relentless work ethic towards whatever it is that you're doing, and the refusal to quit when it gets hard and when you have moments of failure, that you actually can be successful. So bodybuilding has taught me a lot about life, and that really all translates into business, life, relationships, right? Think about like in relationships, man, we're in such this day and age where people have such easy access to so many different people that, it's like if something goes wrong, they're like, oh, well, I have 5 backup options, right? Rather than being like, you know what, let me work through this. Let me take this moment of failure and work on it, become better so that we can be successful. So I really think that bodybuilding and fitness, it really does translate to business, life, relationships. And I think that's what's one of my favorite parts about it, is it's just taught me so much about life.
Yeah, definitely. Same for me. And like, in how many years did you do all these shows?
I did the 14 shows between 2013 and 2016. And
Wow,
then
that's insane.
I was
Great.
back to back.
No, I remember like, what year was this? What are you saying? At 20?
So 2013 to 2016. And
Okay, so we,
then
we met a little bit afterwards. But
after
like
2017.
when I saw you for I don't know, maybe the first or second time, I don't know, I think you were training at Alpha Lead. Me and Christian were walking there. We were like, I'm not sure if we should collab with her. She's probably gonna out kick our butt. She probably trains harder than we do.
Christian and I have trained together a few times.
No, you're like actually the most badass woman that I know. No joke.
Oh, that is so
like,
sweet.
Like for real. Like I've seen you train, I've seen you work out and do all your business stuff and all these shows. Like I've seen how dedicated you are, and it's I respect it, like for real.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
And so how did you go from, the fitness journey to starting your business? Was that sort of at the same time, or?
Yeah, it kind of all went together. So I did my first show, and I remember backstage at my first show, all these girls were like, hey, what's your Instagram? And I was like, Instagram, what do you mean? And they were like, Instagram, we communicate on there. And I thought Instagram was just like a place to add filters for your photos to then upload them to Facebook. I didn't realize it was like a whole thing. So at that show, I decided to open my Instagram account and simply just share what I was doing. I just documented, I wasn't really creating content, so to speak. And it really caught on. And back then, that it was like organic growth. So if you posted something of value and people saw it and liked it, more people would see it and like it and follow. What a concept. And so, I was at a point where I was posting 3 times a day to hit the 9 a.m., crew, or 8 a.m. crew right before they go to work, to hit the lunch crew, and then to hit the crew that gets off of work. And when I was doing that, I was growing consistently like 1,000 followers a day of real followers and real growth and real communication. And it was really cool, like seeing the momentum of that grow. And I remember when I hit like 6,000 followers on Instagram, and I was like, oh my gosh, 6,000 people. That's crazy, right? And I just thought it was really cool. And so that journey of growing the social account is what opened up the opportunity to start an online business. I had my in-person women's fitness boot camp in College Station, Texas, and that's kind of what started me in the fitness industry after graduating from Texas A&M University. And so I started that, and then I decided to move everything online since I was getting so many requests of people asking to help them with their workouts or their nutrition. And from going online, I then moved to California, and I was getting a lot of opportunities out there from the bodybuilding shows that I was doing. Like I worked with Oxygen magazine multiple times. I have like multiple page spread in those magazines, and a bunch of different really cool opportunities. So that's kind of what launched my online business, was starting that social media account and growing the following. And then I decided to document my bikini prep series on YouTube in, I believe 2014 is the first time that I started to document it. Right. And again, it was just me sharing like the most real and raw moments of prep and my experience. And that caught on pretty well. And it was really cool because I got to have this whole community of people that followed my prep, followed the journey, saw like they almost wanted my pro card, more than I did. Not really, like I wanted it more, but they wanted it for me really, really bad, So when I wouldn't get it, it's like the whole community felt like they didn't get it either. And it was just cool to have that support. So, through that, obviously I, have evolved my training and my nutrition into more of a holistic approach where where, I really believe that you can't address training and nutrition without the mindset portion. So large part of what I do is mindset mentorship and then coaching, with the training and nutrition as well. So yeah, that's kind of my business has evolved as I've branched out on these other platforms. I started my podcast in late 2018, like December 2018. So really, 2019. And from there, it's just been an evolution of, where I go. That's kind of where my brand goes as well.
That's awesome. How many episodes did you have now?
253, I believe.
Yeah, see, that's goals. I need to keep going.
Let me tell you what, consistency is king. And I know you know this, from YouTube, but that's where it's at.
It's going to take a couple of years, so we'll get there one day. So I'm wondering, like, what was your like driving factor to do this show? Like, did you want to prove something, or like where did it come from?
At first, competing came from me. I had this like athletic and competitive drive that had no outlet. Right. I wasn't in sports anymore. I wasn't in team sports. Like I said, I was helping everyone else reach their fitness goals. So it just became an outlet for me. And I really do believe that I personally was created to be an athlete. Like it's when I feel the best, it's when I'm on point with everything. And it's when I'm on point with everything like that, everything else in my life improves. My business, my content, I am just so on the mark with everything. So for me, when I started to, compete, I really started to develop really strong characteristic traits in different ways, right? Like the amount of dedication and consistency, determination that competing requires. It makes you level up like no other.
I only did it once, but like I cannot even imagine doing that 14 times in 2 or 3 years. It takes an incredible amount because like even like after the first time, I was cutting down again for like a men's health shoot, and this was like maybe 8 weeks after my show. But like after my show, I gained like 10 kgs and which is like 25 pounds in America.
Oh wow.
So I gained all this weight in like 1 week, and then I had 8 more weeks to get ready for this men's health shoot. So I had to like sort of like cut down all over again, and it was, I don't know, maybe it was my hormones were fucked, but it was like so difficult to get lean again after I got lean that first time for my show. And so it's probably like my body like fighting all this stuff, and it was just so difficult. But I was also mentally, because I was like, I've been in such a good shape. Like, why do I have to do this again? And I had a good reason, obviously, for the shoot, but then still, it was the second time was just as tough as the first time, even though I got less lean like the second time. It's
yeah, absolutely. And now I've done 20 or 21 shows in total because I got pro card and then competed as a pro. So but yeah, I love what it has created in me. It's really created such a strength and this like inner fortitude that I don't know, I'm sure I would have found it a different way, but people always ask, they look at me now and they don't see my journey and they're like, wow, you have dedication that I don't have. And I'm like, bro, I've been working on it for like a decade, literally. I've been practicing so much and choosing this option in my life. And that's the thing is people think they can go from no dedication, no consistency to they just got to flip a switch. It didn't really happen for me. You got to practice it over time. You got to fail. You got to get back up and you got to be committed to the process. And, I think that that's what, I've really been is just really committed to the process of it all.
That's amazing. And so I'm wondering, like, how did you build out those habits that you have? Because we all know, like me and you, we definitely know that it comes down to building the right routines, the habits, the rituals. Whether it's sticking to your diet or it is working on your business. At the end of the day, that is what matters, right? As far as the mindset. And so like what would you say like are your biggest tips when it comes to that, like building routines?
Yeah, I think routine is really important, especially when you want to start building consistency and dedication. Now that it's such an integral part of my life, I can have a little bit more flexibility and I know I'm just going to still stay dedicated. But like, especially in the beginning, I think it's so important. And I think the first thing is time management. A lot of people will say, oh, I don't have time for this, or I barely have time, right? But if I were to ask you to sit there for the next day and write out every 30 minutes exactly what it is that you're doing, you would actually find that you have so much more time that you're wasting. A lot of people are wasting time scrolling on social media. They're
Oh yeah,
wasting time doing things, and they don't have a clear assessment of what they're actually spending their time on. It's kind of like when someone does a financial budget, right? And they all of a sudden look at their credit card and they're like, wait, I spent how much money eating out last month? And they don't
right.
realize, because they're like, where'd this money go? And it's the same thing with your
Exactly.
time.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
even for me, like up until this day, I was doing exactly this thing maybe like 1 week
Mhm.
ago,
Nice.
or like right before my vacation. I was like, what did I do yesterday? I don't remember, but I was busy all day, and then I started like writing shit down. I'm like, that was not productive,
Yeah.
so yeah, I started like, as I start hiring more people, I want to make sure that I
Mhm.
I don't do stuff that I should not be doing and that someone else can do.
Yes.
And I start to
Yes.
notice, like even at this level now, time management is still an important thing, like that you can forget about. So anyway,
Absolutely.
could continue
Yeah.
with yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's so important that you, like you said, like assess, okay, was I busy or was I effective
Yeah,
during this last 30 minutes or hour, right? And one thing that I really harp on is results, right? So whether it's myself or it's somebody that works with me, it's like, okay, I don't really want to see that you're busy on these things. I don't need to know about any of that. What was the
exactly.
result that was produced?
Right on, right
Like just
on.
tell me
Yeah,
what was done. Because here's the thing, I think especially for a leader, number one, you have to lead that way. So you have to be the one first producing results so that you can lead the way. And then two, for your team, I think it's really important to really ingrain that into them so that because sometimes people can get so busy with the busy work, they don't realize that it's not being effective in driving the needle forward for the business.
yeah,
So really helping them to switch their mindset from like, oh, I was busy working all day. None of that matters. What did you produce? What was the end result? And when you get their mind into that kind of space, then they're focused as they're going throughout the day. They have a new intensity and fire towards the same things they're doing, but now they're actually producing the result versus always having these ongoing projects.
yeah, yeah. I like that. I really do. Yeah, yeah. And so for
Mm-hmm.
yourself, like how did you start, building your first habits, like next to time management?
Yeah. So
Like
I
what was it
honestly,
like? Was it always easy for you, or was it like really difficult in the beginning? Because I remember for me, like starting my diet, like it was not easy. It took me
Mhm.
like 1.5 years to actually be committed to that and realize that I
Oh.
I needed to build certain routines in my life. Yeah.
I will say for me, it was probably a little easier than that because
Okay.
for me, I just made the decision. And like for me, once I decide on something, I go 100% in. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to do this and halfway do it. Right. So even like the first bikini prep, I got my diet and I'm like, okay, this is what I need to do to be successful. So this is what I'm going to do. As far as creating habits and such, I remember in the beginning, especially, it was really important that for my diet and nutrition, I had to have everything prepared ahead of time, or else I would be unsuccessful, right? If I just tried to go throughout my day and not have my meals prepped and not have healthy food ready, I would, in a last minute, be in a rush to get to work. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, now I'm having to eat a protein bar or a jerky or something that like is fine, but it's not ideal, for good nutrition. So one of the habits I had to build was, okay, I have a crazy schedule. I worked, back then I was working like 14 hours a day and I had 3 different training sessions. I'd train at 5 a.m., noon, and at 6 or 7 p.m. And I'd work all the way throughout that. So I had to literally schedule in what day am I going grocery shopping? What day am I cooking and preparing all of my meals? And then from there, at what time am I eating throughout the day? Because if I didn't put a time to it, I would just work for hours and be like, oh my gosh, I haven't even eaten.
Yeah.
Right. And so time management is so crucial. And so for me, it came down to just being very, very detailed. And then people sometimes get overwhelmed when they start to like program out their life, right? They're like, okay, I made this perfect plan. I'm
Right.
eating at
One
8,
thing
12,
goes
and
wrong.
this. Yeah, one thing goes wrong.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, and they throw all the papers up in the air, and they're like, I'll just start tomorrow. And it's like, bro, who made your schedule? And they're like, well, I did. And you're like, then you can change it. Right. So,
Yeah.
like, if you find that something's not working for you, that's a part of the process. You have to learn to adjust. If you
Yeah.
didn't get allocate enough time for you to drive to the gym, right? Some people will do, okay, I work from 9 to 12, gym
Well,
at 12:30.
yeah, well, if you make a plan for your own life, it's often difficult because you overestimate what you can do in a day, right? And you really
Yeah.
do. So time management for yourself often is difficult. Maybe have someone else look at it as well, because often it's just
Yeah.
it's just really not realistic. how quick you think you can do things without having any like mental, just clarity during the day where you can chill for a little bit or rest, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing too, is, I think we're in such a like, wired society that we're like go, go, go all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's actually really, really important to have moments of stillness even throughout your day. Even if it's like, okay, I have 5 minutes to go into a closet by myself and do some breath work or do a 5-minute guided meditation. Sometimes that moment of stillness will set you up for success so much more than writing another to-do list will, So I think as we focus on time management, don't forget to have time to be present and to practice stillness and to work on your breathing. It's really incredible what you can do with the breath that's inside of your body. Like, it's literally free. We have it, and it can give you access to some really deep, incredible parts of yourself and your soul, which could be another podcast entirely, but I think it's so important.
I like that. Yeah, we could save that for another one, because I've been doing like meditation for daily for like 1.5 years. But then
wow,
I started it maybe when I was 22 years old. I read like the Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, but it didn't really hit me yet. You know the book, right? You know it?
Of course.
Yeah. So
I read it.
Back then it didn't really hit me yet. So I had to like read it a couple times, and only years later it really hit me. And I started actually, in between I started trying some meditations. I was like, nah, it's not for me, but it truly changed my life. It really did. So I love it. We can save that for a different podcast. I wanted to ask you, because I know you talk a lot about this stuff. So what do you think about, the victim mentality versus the growth mentality? I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, I think the victim mentality is where the highest version of you dies. And I think one of the hardest parts about this is the self-awareness piece. Most people are not self-aware to the fact that they are living in a victim mentality. They truly believe the stories that they're telling themselves, and they truly believe all of the limiting beliefs. And so the victim mentality, they're the people that are always telling you all the reasons why things aren't working out for them. They're always telling you this sob story, which to them, it's their real life. And here's the thing, it's not to take away from the reality of things that people have experienced, but you have to ask yourself, is the story that I'm telling myself, is it expanding me? Is it bringing me into abundance? Or is it potentially limiting me and holding me back and giving me justifications and excuses to justify why I'm not where I potentially could be? So I would say, assess the stories that you're telling yourself. And rather than choosing the story that is keeping you stuck, keeping you in this sob story, keeping you limited, decide today, okay, I'm going to choose the abundance mentality, the growth mentality, the victor mentality, which says, yeah, that happened. Yeah, that's true. But now what am I going to do about it? And how am I going to grow? How am I going to be better? It's not letting anything become an excuse in your life. It's not justifying why you are where you're at. It's actually taking full ownership and responsibility to say, I am going to create a way. Even if there's not a way, I'm going to figure out a way, right? And that's the thing. There's this like figure it out muscle that I talk about, where I feel like sometimes people have never had to like flex their figure it out muscle, right? So it's like when something doesn't work out, they're just like, oh, it just doesn't work. And I'm like, okay, Google it, dude. Like, figure it out. Like, do whatever you have to do. Google it, ask a friend, like, be resourceful, look for the information, right?
So that's the flex muscle is like, look for information and try and figure it out, try to do something.
Yes, like don't take no for an answer, right? Yeah. Like when you're, even if it's something like troubleshooting on your computer and there's this like error thing popping up, literally Google the error code, right? Some people are like, oh, it just doesn't work, and they give up. And that's the victim mentality to me. The victim mentality is like, okay, this is data and information that I need in order to figure it out elsewhere. Let me text someone, let me Google it, let me be resourceful and do whatever I have to do to produce the outcome that I want, right? If you're living in the situation, whether it's a job situation and you're going after this promotion and you're like, well, of course I didn't get it because my boss doesn't like me. My boss likes the other person. Well, guess what? Number one, that's the victim mentality. Number two, if you make yourself such an undeniable, valuable part of that brand and business, they will have no option but to reward that and keep you and make sure that you're happy and you stay. The only people that aren't getting those promotions are the people that are pretty easily replaceable, right? Ask yourself, could somebody else come into this position and do it just as good as I do it, if not better? And if that answer is yes, you're not working hard enough and you're not making yourself a part of the brand and business in a way where they don't want to lose you. And that's the thing, is that's what you want to make yourself, is irreplaceable and undeniable in your position, going above and beyond. And that's where living a life of excellence really can help you get to anything you want to get to in life, right? If you're practicing excellence, even if you are working at Chick-fil-A, right? Do you guys have Chick-fil-A? You don't in Amsterdam.
I wish we did. I had some
That is
last
so
week when I was
sad.
in New York. I had some, but it was,
Oh, okay.
we
That
don't
is so
have it here
sad.
now.
I'll send you
But
some chicken nuggets.
yeah, that'd be good.
But yeah, it's like, even if you're working at Chick-fil-A, right? And you want to make yourself that undeniable, person, go above and beyond, show up a little bit early for your shift, stay a little bit late for your shift,
Yeah.
clean up, like pick up, be the person that picks up shifts, go above and beyond in every single way. And I promise good things will come your way. The abundant mentality goes above and beyond because they know that it'll come back to them.
Very, very true. Very true. I've been practicing that mentality like for a very long time now as well.
Mm-hmm.
Since I dropped out of university. And
Yeah.
I've had one moment now where I don't remember like many moments where I'm in this victim mindset, maybe just for a slight moment, but like very short perhaps. But when I had a burnout like last year, I sort of could feel like how people with a victim mindset could easily like fall into that. Because I was on the couch and I felt so shit. And like physically I couldn't do anything, and mentally also not for quite some time. I was literally like, am I maybe not cut out for this? Can I maybe just maybe I should just find a normal job? Like I was honestly like, I cannot even
No
imagine it
way.
now. But just for a little bit, I was telling myself these stories, and then I was like, holy shit, am I telling myself this? Like, and then
Yeah.
I realized what goes on in some people's minds. But I don't know. It's like, yeah, that was like the first experience I've had with it again. But I see it all around
So
me like a lot,
what helped you get out of that then?
It's just my self-talk mainly that got me out of it. Because I just, some people might call it like too arrogant to say to yourself, like, I'm the shit. I believe in myself. But that's what I tell myself all the time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it works.
I see. I think self-talk is huge. So I
Yeah.
don't think it's arrogant at
Yeah.
all. You are
No, I
literally
don't
like,
actually tell people physically like, I'm dead.
yeah, of course not.
Maybe sometimes. Not really, no. So no, I would say like in that sense, like I never like talk that high about myself to people,
Of course not.
pretty,
Of
pretty
course not.
normal. Like, but to myself, I do, because I know that
Yeah.
if I don't, and I know that the voice in my head doesn't always talk that way, so I have to battle that voice, right? Because it's a
Yeah.
negative voice and it will drag me down. And every person has this little voice in his or her head,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think it's important, like you said, just ask yourself, okay, is the voice inside of my head and all these stories, is it helping me become who I want to be? Or is it
yeah,
like beating me down? Is it literally
exactly,
kicking me while I'm down? And if it's kicking you while you're down, wage war against those thoughts, like wage
exactly,
war against the negativity, right? And say, no, I'm going to choose positivity. So I may not feel like the shit. I may not feel like that right now, but you know what? I'm going to choose to speak that over my life, because I really believe that what you think and what you speak translates in real life to like your tangible life. So when you have that
definitely.
awareness, you can, tune into that.
Definitely. So I do say those things like to myself, but at the same time, I also know that if I don't stay true to my own word, I will not believe those words, right? So,
Yes.
I know because I've proved to myself so many times that I am the shit, that I
Yeah.
start believing in myself. But if I would tell
Yeah.
myself like, I'm the shit, like I can do great things with my business, or I can do great things in the gym with my shape, but then I start skipping on my diet. I start skipping workouts, and then I'm not, consistent with my word to myself. Then the self-talk, I'm not going to believe it, right? So I think it's
Yes.
a combination of both.
I agree. I think what you just pointed out is crucial. So, for the people that are listening and they may feel like I don't have much self confidence or I don't have much self belief, look at how often do you break your own word to yourself?
Yeah,
It's like, it'd be like me yesterday if I skipped the cold plunge, right? If I tried to tell myself, like, I got this or I can do this or I'm the shit or whatever, I know in the back of my head, I skip things when I say
Exactly.
I'm going to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So when you do that, yeah, like your spirit knows. So you got to make sure that you're keeping your promises to yourself, keep
Yeah.
your word to yourself. And a really easy way to do that, sometimes I work with a lot of clients and I give them
Yeah.
these like the easiest little homework things to do in order to help build this confidence in themselves.
All
So
right.
it's something
Give
as
us some
simple.
homework.
Yeah, well, and like here's the thing, it's so simple. And when I say it, people are going to be like, well, that's stupid, or it's so simple, I'm not going to do it. But for people who don't keep their promises to themselves, just start really simple and say, make an exact promise to yourself. For example, okay, every single day this week at 12:30 p.m., I'm going to go for a 15-minute walk while I listen to a personal growth, personal development podcast like Ryan's podcast, right? And so yeah. And so on your calendar, what you're going to do is every single day after you've done it, you write a check mark. Like I'm really big on having this visual experience as well.
Yeah.
And so then at the end of the 7 days, write that final seventh check mark and look back at the 7 days and then tell me you don't feel better about yourself. Tell me you don't feel proud. Tell me you haven't just built a little bit of confidence in yourself. So it's a really practical way that people can start to see the effect of keeping your promises to yourself. And then of course you can, take that and make it bigger and make it more meaningful with different things. But I think that's just an easy first step.
Yeah, I like that. And you got to start with the small steps, because this is why people start not believing in themselves, because they might see my life and they're like, okay, I want to do all this stuff that Marijn is doing, the physical, the mental, the business, all this stuff. Right at once, they want to copy my lifestyle. And I know that that's just not possible, because I've tried to live this lifestyle for many years, and like years ago, I would not succeed at doing what I do now. Right. It's all these levels, all these barriers, like these mental barriers I had to overcome. And the little changes, like the small habits that stacked onto each other and became routines. Because if it's not a habit or not a routine, it's all pretty difficult. It takes some willpower, and that's fine for like the small steps. But if you constantly have to like have that willpower in everything in your life, that's when you get burnt out. That's when you start maybe now reaching your goals, and then you're telling yourself like, I'm amazing, I'm going to do this. And then you constantly fail, and then you're going to get into this victim mindset that you're a failure instead of a winner. So this is why I do really believe in those, just the small steps, and proving to yourself that you can do those things, check it off, and makes you feel good too.
Yeah. So question, how do you experience a small failure and not take it on as your identity? Like, I am a failure.
Right. I feel like for me, that's always been sort of easy in a way to, because I'm just not afraid to fail. Because I think I learned at just a young age, because I was really scared to like start social media. And I had this dream, I was watching Christian Guzman and all these guys make YouTube videos, live this lifestyle. And I literally had the dream of doing the same thing. And like here in the Netherlands instead of America. And then I had so many things holding me back. And then one day I was just like, fuck it. Like you said, with competing, like once I set my mind to it, I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do this no matter what. And for many months I was researching all the stuff, going over with ideas and not pursuing it. And so once I did, I threw myself in the deep. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try. And then I had small failures, small things or people talking shit or whatever. I that felt like failure to me. When I uploaded a video, they got like 2 hate comments and 0 nice ones. But then I realized that those failures were not that bad, or when I something else, when I was on stage speaking and it wasn't the best one, like I was still happy I went on there, at the end of the day. And so I view everything as like a learning lesson, and real failures, I don't feel like they exist, it's all learning lessons. And without like, I'm the type of guy, I need to do stuff, I need to try stuff before I'm ready. And like I was never too good at school, right? So I'm not really much of a learner necessarily. I just need to do stuff to learn also. And I realized that at a young age. And I knew entrepreneurs, they all like, you can never have the perfect plan. There will be failures no matter what, because the world constantly changes. You have to try out stuff before it's too late also. And you don't really learn anything without failing. So I just learned it that way, like pretty quick, because I threw myself in the deep. And then I got confronted with the reality that, those failures, they're not as bad as they are in your imagination, beforehand.
That's so good. And I align with everything you're saying. That's how I view them as well. Is just, it's an opportunity to learn, go back to the drawing board and say, okay, what did I do? What can I do differently? How can I get better? And in some cases, how can I be resourceful and ask somebody who's already done what I want to do and see,
Exactly.
what their advice is, right? And then go back and apply that. So I agree. I don't think you can fail unless you quit. If you quit,
Exactly.
you failed. But as long as you'll get back up and just learn and let it make you better, I think,
Yeah.
you have to know that failure is expected. Like small moments of failure are going to happen along any journey that you go through, right?
Exactly.
Relationships, business, life, competing, you're always going to have these moments. So and like you said, I love the fact that you point out, like, it really wasn't that big of a deal, right? Because I go back and I think about years ago in my life when I experienced moments of failure and, you're crying and you're like so upset about it. And it feels so heavy and important in the moment. And now I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, what failures was that I was so upset about? Because
Exactly.
now they don't
Yeah.
even matter or exist. And and I'm still at a really great place because I simply just didn't give up.
Exactly. People find it hard to fail also because other people see you fail. And I think that's the main thing. It's not even like
Oh,
failing for yourself. That's maybe the most difficult, but the most difficult is that other people see you fail. At least for me, that's
oh,
what I think often. And it's like, but I found something else about failure interesting. And that's like because of this mindset that I have, I was maybe even, I was so much into like, like failure is fine. But then when it came to like new projects or businesses, I was like, because you said like, if once you give up, you fail, right? And I
mm,
agree with that. But then that mindset, well, I took that maybe in a bit of the wrong way. And I was like, when I let something go, I fail because I'm giving
oh,
up, right? So I've started like multiple businesses and projects, and
uh,
now in this moment, I'm super happy with all the decisions I've made. But I've quit
mhm,
some stuff along the way, and
mhm.
it took me like sometimes a long time to quit something because I was like, if I quit, I fail, even though it wasn't
Oh,
aligned with my true self and what I wanted deep down. So it was the right
mhm,
thing to quit something. Sometimes
mhm.
it can be right to quit something, right?
I
Um,
agree.
to give up something to do something else. So that was sort of like in a way difficult for me with the whole failure part. That felt like failure
Yeah,
sometimes. But yeah, if you have a
yeah,
goal, like if you don't give up, you're not gonna fail. You just learn. And I truly believe that
exactly.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point to point out because yeah, sometimes you'll go down a path and sometimes it's almost like you're spinning your wheels, right? You're
Yeah.
spinning your wheels, but you're not really going anywhere. And you have to ask yourself, some questions, right? Like, is this really aligned with who I am? Does this really, fall in line with my core values? Is my heart really fully in this? Because I really believe when your heart is really fully in something and you're aligned with something, that you're never going to give up on that, right? So sometimes we go down
Exactly.
paths and we're like, okay, let's take a left turn, and we're like, okay, this is great, and then we get further into it and we're like, this is not what I thought it was. This is not
Yeah.
really for me. This doesn't feel aligned. And I think at that point, it's so important to be able to make that kind of course redirect and get back on track with who you are and what feels right for you. So I agree. I think, and sometimes it is important to make just a change of direction. I've never really worried about other people seeing me fail. And I think it's
Okay.
because I'm like, who's pretending that we're all perfect here? Like, who
Yeah.
is pretending that you don't mess up or you don't have failure behind your closed doors? Because to me, that's just a part of the human experience. So for me, I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me why people would criticize others when they fail when we literally all do it. Like we all have these moments, right? So why not do it and get back up and, find that thing for you.
Ah, I love that. I love that. So Emily, thanks so much for the convo. I really liked it, and I wanted to ask you to finish it off. Like, where can the people find you? Where should they go, etc.
Yeah, so you can just search my name, Emily Hayden. It's Hayden on Instagram. And at that Instagram, you actually have the links for everything else. My podcast, Evolve with Emily podcast, is on there. You can also find that on Apple, iTunes, every podcast platform, Spotify, SoundCloud. I'm on YouTube. So yeah, just Emily Hayden, you'll find me.
Emily Hayden. All right, Emily, thank you so much. That was an amazing conversation, and I'm sure the people will get a lot from this. This was much more deeper into mindset than any podcast I've done so far. So that's awesome, and we can do another episode which goes more into detail about the meditation. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah,
That'd be amazing.
that would be
So thank you
amazing.
so much, and thank you guys for listening. we'll catch you in the next one. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys. Thank you.